those states like Wyoming, where you beat me by a lot, but then I still got most of the delegates?
Oh, my God. That was so stupid. It was rigged.
I know it's so rigged.
Oh, my God. To Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
To Debbie.
That was Saturday Night Live once again, having some fun with the Democratic presidential race. All joking aside, the Sanders campaign has repeatedly accused DNC chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz of rigging the process in favor of Hillary Clinton. Well, now Bernie Sanders is taking that feud with the DNC chair to a whole new level. On Sunday, Sanders was asked if he supports Debbie Wasserman Schultz's primary challenger in Florida, Tim Canova.
Clearly, I favor her opponent. His views are much closer to mine than Wasserman Schultz's. And let me also say this, in all due respect to the current chairperson, if elected president, she would not be reappointed to be chair of the DNC.
Right after that interview, the Sanders campaign sent out a fundraising blast for Canova that read on issues like taking on Wall Street, making tuition free at public colleges, and reforming our broken campaign finance system. He is someone you can be proud to support. That's why Bernie is endorsing Tim's campaign. Canova's campaign then raised over $250,000 ever since Sanders endorsed him over the weekend. And the Florida congressional candidate, Tim Canova, running against Debbie Wasserman Schultz, joins me now from Florida. Nice to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Kate. Nice to be with you.
Let me start, though, by saying Debbie Wasserman Schultz, she's a well-known figure. She's represented the people of your area since she was 26 years old, either in Tallahassee or then in Washington, D.C. She won her last two re-elections, as you know, with 63% of the vote. She has a lot of seniority. She has a high profile as DNC chair. How are you going to be better for the people of South Florida than she is?
Well, first of all, I'll say that her popularity is a bit of a myth. When you give numbers like her winning re-election over 60% of the vote, this is a very safely Democratic district, like many of the districts in this country that have been gerrymandered. They're either safely Democratic or safely Republican.
Well, but she won her primaries as well.
She did not have primary challenges, which is part of the problem.
I thought she did, at least in her first race she did. I thought.
Well, maybe her first race as a state legislature 24 years ago, but in 12 years at Congress, she's never had a primary challenge. As you said, she's been a career politician. She went from studying political campaigning in college to straight into politics, and I think has a very narrow view of politics and of the world as a result. I've been teaching for the past 20 years. I worked on Capitol Hill for the late U.S. Senator Paul Tsongas. I practiced law in New York City. I've got a career that has spanned quite a time. And during my time teaching, I'll tell you, I see quite well the kind of very difficult job market that my students and students all over this country are facing right now. And this is a tough job market, not just for millennials, but for baby boomers and everyone in between. And my opponent has been pretty oblivious, I think, to this jobs crisis. And in many ways, her votes in Congress have only made the matters worse.
Let me ask
whether it's, yeah.
Well, let me ask this. The Miami New Times, which is an alt weekly down there, recently wrote about your race, and they said this about Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Quote, in 2012, this paper dubbed her a liberal warrior. And in the more right-wing corners of the internet, she has for years been painted as an extremist socialist she-devil. Her overall voting record certainly attests that she's one of the most solidly progressive politicians in Florida. They basically say in that article that you're wasting your time trying to be more progressive than she is.
Nothing could be further from the truth. When you look at issue after issue, she is very far from progressive. She voted to fast-track the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That's not a progressive vote at all. She's been pushing a Republican bill in the House of Representatives that would prevent President Obama's Consumer Financial Protection Bureau from regulating payday loans. These payday loan companies are all over Florida, and they're gouging low-income folks, making them pay up to 300% interest rates. And this is something that she is a result of her work in Tallahassee as a state legislator to begin with. She's a drug warrior. She has been against medical marijuana. She's for mass incarceration. She's been taking money from private prison companies and pushing private prisons. Now, this doesn't sound like a progressive record to me. There might be something wrong with the ratings, the kinds of votes and stances that go into determining these ratings. And I got to tell you, that newspaper that that you cited, it's not that well a respected newspaper, perhaps. You take a look at the Miami Herald. They did a PolitiFact check of my allegations that Wasserman Schultz has been taking millions of dollars in money from big corporations and Wall Street banks and voting along their lines, their interests, and the PolitiFact check said that I was telling the truth, that this was true.
We should note right now that we have invited Debbie Wasserman Schultz to be on MSNBC today as well, because you're making a lot of allegations that, frankly, I can't fact check in the time we have right now. But I did want to read, let me just read, in fairness, a statement from her. Debbie Wasserman Schultz said, even though Senator Sanders has endorsed my opponent, I remain, as I have been from the beginning, neutral in the presidential Democratic primary. I look forward to working together with him for Democratic victories in the fall. Do you think she has been neutral in this race, in the bigger national race?
Well, I could ask you if you think she has. You know, we all watch the news, and we see how divided the party has become, and we can all assess, make our own determinations as to whether she's been playing a unifying role or a divisive role. And certainly a large part of the country and of the folks here in South Florida think that she's been playing a very divisive role. And the charge has been that she rigs the markets, she rigs the political outcomes. I can tell you what I'm fighting here in South Florida. Some of her allies have been trying to rig union endorsements in her favor. So if that's any indication of the kind of politics that she plays, I'll tell you, I can understand why a lot of folks are contributing to my campaign. And it's not just around the country. It's also here in Florida, where in the first quarter we received more individual donations than Debbie Wasserman Schultz did. She's been a member of Congress for 12 years. I've been a candidate for less than 90 days, and we got more contributions in Florida than she did. So her popularity is a bit of a myth. She's been pushing for big corporate interests for a while, and voters are really not in the mood for more of the same. There's a big anti-incumbent wave in this country. We saw it start 2 years ago when Eric Cantor, the second-ranking Republican in the House of Representatives, lost to a college professor who he outraised by 40-1. And then you take a look at this presidential cycle. It's not just the rise of Bernie Sanders, but you also have Donald Trump. And
you are a college professor trying to do exactly the same.
Well, that is true.
That is true. I have to leave it there. Tim Canova, thank you so much for being with us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Nice to be with you.